I am 104 years old, and I walked this morning. Not far. 15 minutes, slow as a river in winter, cane in my hand, Montana air still cold enough to sting. But I walked, and I want you to hold on to that for a second, because it matters more than it sounds. 15 minutes at 104 on a cold February morning, before breakfast, because that is simply what I do, what I have done, every single day that weather and God have allowed it, for as long as I can remember. And here's what I need you to understand before I say another word. Most of the people I grew up with, people who were young and strong. When I was young and strong, they stopped moving somewhere in their 50s, some in their 40s, not because they had to, because the world made it easy to sit still. The car replaced the walk, the machine replaced the hand, the chair replaced the floor, and then they sat still until the sitting killed them. Not all at once, the way anything good disappears, slowly, then completely. I'm Dorothy Richardson. Everyone calls me Dot. I'm 104 years old, and I've outlived my husband, one of my own children, and nearly every friend I ever had. And I am not telling you that to make you feel sorry for me. I'm telling you that because I've had a front row seat to what separates people who thrive from people who fade. And it was never what they ate. It was never how much money they had. It was whether they kept moving. You probably think you know where this is going. Some lecture about exercise. Count your steps. Join a gym. I've heard that too. Put it out of your head right now. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is something older than gyms. Something your great-grandmother knew, and your body still remembers. The belief, the daily, committed, stubborn belief that your body is meant to be used, not preserved, used. I grew up on a farm in Montana during the Depression. We didn't have money. We barely had food some years. What we had was work. You moved because the work demanded it. You carried water from the well because there was no tap. You bent into the garden because the vegetables wouldn't pick themselves. You walked the 2 miles to church because there was no car and no excuse. You churned, you scrubbed, you split wood, you hauled. Nobody called it exercise. It was just life, and I watched it build people who lasted. People who were still sharp and standing at 80, at 90, because their whole lives their bodies had been asked to show up. And they always did. Here's the truth that I learned too slowly. Or maybe I learned it in time and just watched too many others miss it. Your body will become whatever you let it become. You treat it like a machine that only runs when you need it. It will seize up on you. You treat it like something that gets a little use every single day. It will serve you. Not forever, but longer than you'd believe. Let me tell you about my neighbor, Margaret. She was the kind of woman everyone admired. Quick laugh, sharp tongue, kept a beautiful garden right into her 60s. Then her husband bought her a riding lawnmower. First it was the lawn. Then she got a little ache in her knee and decided the garden was too much work. By 70, she was mostly in a chair. By 75, she needed help with everything. I used to sit with her in her last years and she'd say, "Dot, I don't understand what happened to me." I'd hold her hand and I'd think, "I understand exactly what happened to you. You stopped asking your body to do anything, and your body believed you." My husband, John, and I never owned a car until he was in his 60s. I didn't own one until John was gone. We walked everywhere. The store, the post office, church, the neighbors. And I used to think when cars became common that we were behind, that we were missing something. Now I think we were the ones ahead. Every errand was a reason to move. Every Sunday was a 2-mile round trip. We didn't plan it as health. It was just how life worked. I gardened until I was 98 years old. Not because someone told me it was good for me, because I grew up understanding that food comes from the ground, and the ground needs tending. I'd be out there at 5 in the morning in the summer, before the heat came in, on my knees in the dirt, pulling weeds, turning soil, harvesting beans. And my daughter used to say, "Mama, please, let me hire someone." And I'd say, the day I can't tend my own garden is the day I need to think about what else I'm going to give up. That garden kept my hands strong, my knees moving, my back from stiffening into stone. When I finally had to let it go at 98, and I did let it go, I'm not foolish, I grieved it like a friendship. Here is something I noticed over 100 years of watching people age. The ones who made it the furthest with the most life in them, they all shared one thing. They never sat for very long. Not because they were restless, because somewhere in them they understood, maybe without even naming it, that stillness is practice for the grave. They got up. They found reasons to move. They didn't wait to feel like it. They didn't reward themselves for it. They just did it, the way you breathe. Not because you decided to, but because stopping is simply not an option you're willing to consider. I did my housework myself until I was 95. Every bit of it. Not because I was proud, though I was. Because I was not going to let my muscles forget how to work. Bending to make a bed, reaching to hang a curtain, carrying laundry from room to room. People don't think of that as exercise, but it is. It's functional movement. It's your body being reminded of its own capability. Every time you outsource something your body could do, you are trading a little of your strength for a little convenience. And those trades compound. A year of those small trades, and you don't notice much. 10 years and you wonder why stairs have become a problem. 20 years, and you wonder why you need help with things you used to do in your sleep. I turned 68 the year John died of a heart attack, and I will tell you honestly, there was a part of me that wanted to stop. Not dramatically, just quietly, the way grief can do it to you. Make the chair seem like enough, make the bed seem like the whole world. I sat in that house for 3 days after the funeral, and I did not move more than I had to. I let the food go uneaten. I let the garden go untended. I let my daughter bring me things. And on the 4th day, I looked out the window at the road, and I thought of John. Not of losing him, but of knowing him, knowing that he had never once asked me to become small. And I put my coat on, and I walked, the next morning, down the road and back, crying the whole way, if you want to know the truth. But I walked. That walk was not about health. It was not about longevity. It was about refusing to let grief be the last decision my body ever made. And I think about that morning a lot. Because the choice to move, really move, when everything in you says stay still, that is the choice that changes everything. And here is what I want to say to you. Plainly and without decoration, your body is not your enemy. It is not something to manage or battle or push past. It is the only house you will ever live in. You either care for it daily, or you lose it slowly. There is no third option. You want to know how I moved my body for 95 years without ever thinking of it as exercise? I never sat for more than 2 hours in a row. Not once. You get still too long, and everything starts to set up like concrete. Get up. Walk to the kitchen. Walk to the window. Walk to the end of the driveway and back. 2 minutes. It doesn't matter. What matters is the interruption of stillness. I swept my floors because floors need sweeping. I carried things from place to place because that's what carrying is for. I kneeled in my garden and stood back up again because the garden required it. I walked to church because the Lord and my legs both needed it. I reached and bent and twisted and lifted because that is what a living body does. None of it was dramatic. All of it was consistent. Now here's where I'm going to push you a little, because you need it. You are sitting somewhere right now, reading or watching this, and you will finish, and you will feel something for a minute, maybe even 2 minutes, and then you will sit in that same spot for another hour. I know this because I know people. And I want to ask you something. How long has it been since you asked your body to do something genuinely hard? Not brutal, not punishing, just hard. Carrying something heavy upstairs, walking farther than comfortable, getting down on the floor, and then standing back up without holding anything. These are not exercises. These are the basic grammar of a living body. If you have lost them, you can find them again. But you have to go looking. What would you give to be walking at 95? What would you give to be tending your own home at 88? What would you give to still be here, fully here, at 104? Here is what I'd tell you to do. Starting today, not tomorrow. Start today. Get up and walk for 10 minutes, outside if you can. Don't check your pace. Don't track your steps. Just walk and pay attention to what is around you. Do it again tomorrow. Then the day after. Build it into your day like a meal. Find one thing in your home that you've been letting someone else do, or a machine do, and do it yourself this week. Carry the groceries, sweep the floor by hand, make the bed fully, bending and stretching to tuck it in. Let your body remember it can. Once a day, get down close to the floor and get back up. I don't care how. Sit on a low chair, kneel in the garden, play with a grandchild. The act of lowering and rising keeps the machinery working in ways nothing else quite replaces. Never sit for more than 2 hours without moving, even for 1 minute. Even just to stand and stretch. Break the stillness before it breaks you. And finally, find a reason outside yourself to move. I walked to church. I walked to my neighbor's house. I walked because there was a world outside my door worth seeing. If you have no destination, invent one. Purpose is the best motivation your body will ever have. I've buried people I loved. I've outlasted nearly everyone I started with. And I still don't fully understand why I'm the one still here. But I know what I did. I kept my body in the conversation. Every single day. I gave it something to do. Not because I was trying to live forever. Because I was trying to be alive right now. You are going to be a lot of ages before you're done. Be alive for all of them. Don't sit down all the way. Not yet. Not while there's still a world outside that door.